Hey guys, thank you for entering the chamber once again. Today I'm going to be breaking down the new Ochaco 4 Clash deck as part of the upcoming set Jetburn. It's the newest set for UniVersus. This is a video that's going to be aimed at newer players who maybe just pick this deck up or even considering picking this up and they want to know a bit more about what comes in the box or just, kind of how to play with this deck to go to that next level. Before we begin, just a quick reminder, I'm about to give away 2 boxes of Jetburn. Just make sure you check the description in the video down below, and you can see the details for how to get entered into that giveaway with my box opening video. If you're interested in winning, all you have to do is hop off this video and go check with that box opening, leave a comment on what you're most excited for with Jetburn, and then come back to this video and you're going to be entered in it with a opportunity to win one of those boxes. Just make sure you subscribe on the way out. Now with that out of the way, let's get into this video proper, talking about the new Ochaco Clash decks. Now Ochaco is one of the 2 new Clash decks to come out with Jetburn alongside Toga. If you want to see my tutorial on Toga, I'll also include a link to that as well. Now Ochaco is the more aggressive out of the 2 characters, or the 2 options that you have, which is kind of interesting because, most people don't really think of Ochaco as being an aggressive character, but this deck and this character kill people, man. Now, I'm going to go over how I would take 2 of these Clash decks that I have right here and mix them to make a great starting deck. But if you only have 1, that's okay. You don't need 2 to do this. You can play with the 1 deck that comes out of the box that you have just fine, and you'll still benefit from a bit of the analysis on the cards in the deck, along with the character tutorial at the end of the video. So if you only have 1 deck box, don't worry, you're not missing out on anything. Let's crack these open and see what's inside. All right, we have our 2 open Clash decks. Each Clash deck also comes with a basic playmat if you don't own one, if you're brand new to start playing with and learning. And then they also come with this handy dandy, welcome to UniVersus. And this gives you a link to a video rule set if you want to learn more about the core rules of the game. And it also helps you get signed up on the UniVersus Gaming Network, which is a system for new players and veteran players to look up and schedule games at tournaments or just for locals. If you're new to the game, consider signing up with this, and when you sign up, mention my channel, The Chamber, and you'll actually receive 50 free points when you do that. Now, UniVersus does this neat thing where playing at your locals, attending events, and you can even actually turn in packs as well. There's a pack redemption program, but all these things will earn you points, which can then be used to redeem promos of your choice. 50 points is enough to get any promo off the loyalty store. So if you hop in, sign up, mention my channel, and then play just a couple of games, you'll actually get entered and get a free promo that you can then redeem of your choice once you're a little bit more comfortable with the game. It's a really neat promo that they're doing. Now that we have our 2 open Clash decks, we're going to mix these together. If you only have 1 Clash deck and you just want to get some advice for playing this deck, you can feel free to skip to the next chapter. But again, there's going to be a little bit in here for you as well, because I will talk about some of the cards in here at least briefly. Now, each Clash deck comes with 19 attacks, which is a lot for a 50 card deck list. Usually you want around the 30% mark, but you can feel free to mess with that as you feel comfortable. I tend to play around 31 or 32 in most of my decks personally. It's where it feels comfortable. Now, because 19 is a lot, and we actually have 2 Clash decks of attacks to work with, our objective is going to be kind of taking the best of both worlds and playing the highest quality attacks while also reducing the overall number of attacks that we play. For this, I'm going to suggest 17. Okay, so here we have our 17 attacks. Like I said, I'm only recommending 17 to start. You should experiment and find a value that you feel comfortable with. And I'm just going to run through these. And we're going to start with her Ultra Rare, which is actually the only card that we're playing a full play set of, and 0 Gravity. Now, Gravity is probably the best attack for her out of the box, even though it's not a high. The fact that we can use the momentum and make it into a 3 difficulty attack is great. It makes our next charge attack very damaging, so we get the best of both worlds with her character. And we have ways to make it into a high, so we can also make this into a very damaging move. It's great on all fronts. It tends to get trimmed or cut out as you add more cards, but out of the box, this is an excellent first attack. So we're going to play 4 copies of it because we need to see it. This is our best opener. Now, the next few attacks that we play, next few cards, actually we're just going to do it like that actually, are going to be cards we play only 3 copies of. These are cards that we want to see, but we don't need to see. We can function if we don't see them, but we prefer to. First, we're playing 3 copies of 0 Gravity Rush. Honestly, I could see playing a 4th copy of Rush if you wanted to, because in many ways, Rush is a great card. You can give it damage with Ochaco and then copy its damage for speed. So it ends up as a 7/7, which is very fast and very damaging. It draws 2 cards, which is a great value. Like, this attack is great in a lot of ways, but it's a little hard for us to play with it right out of the gate. So I'm going to move that a bit, get some of the glare away. And got a lot of glare. That's all right. It's hard for us to play with that right out of the gate. And our first couple turns, we may not actually have the 3 face downs. So this attack isn't something you can really play like on turn 2. You usually have to wait till turn 3 before it's efficient. So we're only playing 3 simply because it's not very good on our second turn. But if you want to play 4, I could totally see playing 4 this card. There we go. Sorry, it's just the... Let's put these over here. That's much better. Our other 3 we're playing 3 copies of Swift Redirect. Now, Redirect is basically a 4 high for 6 at all times, and it also comes with EX3. So we can put damage on this move and then use momentum to make it fast. It's also just a great follow-up after we play a first attack. It's great in a lot of situations. This is another one where I could see playing 4, but we have other follow-ups, so you don't need to do that. Now, our last 3 we're playing 3 copies of Floating Drop. Now, Drop is a 5 high for 4, so we can put speed on it with Ochaco and make this a very fast attack that won't do a whole lot of damage, or we can put damage on it and just make it like a 5 high for 7, again, very efficient. And it also comes with Powerful, so we put some speed on with Ochaco, and then we burn some momentum and give it damage, and this can end up being like a 8 high for like 11, 10, etc. Like, just, again, huge value card. Now, our last couple of attacks, we're playing only 2 copies of each. These are attacks that we don't really necessarily even want to see early on, but once we have, certain conditions fulfilled, they become useful to see. If we never see them, it's okay. First, we're playing 2 copies of Close Quarter Subdual. Subdual has a really powerful enhance where we can commit or make our opponent commit cards based on the number of charge attacks that we have. So after we've played a few attacks, you can play this card and make it like a stun 4 if you want, which is brutal, but it's a 2 low for 4, and that means we can't give it stats, and we have to invest foundations into it to where we can even like flip foundations with our character. Otherwise, it's a very weak move stat wise, even with the powerful enhance. So it requires like the right stage to be effective. So I'm only playing 2 copies of it. But again, if like anything else in here, if you want to play more, feel free to. Now, speaking of attacks that require, like a particular stage, the last thing we're playing is 2 copies of Neck Chop. Now, Neck Chop is a 1 mid for 5, which is very slow, and we can't give it stats with our character baseline. But it does get speed equal to the number of face downs we have, which can be a lot. And we have ways to make it high in Ochaco. So we can make this a high, give it damage, and then once we have like a large stage, give it like 6 or 7 speed for having a bunch of face downs, and make this like a finishing bomb. So it can be useful, so we're playing it, but again, it requires like the right stage and right situation. This makes up our 17 attacks. I think this is like a good opening attack lineup if you have 2 clash decks. And this brings us to our foundations. You see here that I have a stack of 33 cards. Probably hard to count, but trust me, there's 33. The clash decks come with 9 different foundations. If you play a set of all 9 at 4 each, you'll have 36. So it's practically a finished deck right there. But we can trim just a few cards to 3, and that'll get us to a nice clean 50. So I'm going to talk about that. So first, I think you should play only 3 copies of Snap Out of It. This is her ultra rare foundation. This foundation is actually great for her game plan. It's just like generally like a very good card for her, but it's unique, so you really only want to see it once. So I think you can comfortably play 3 copies of it because you're again gonna suffer those like diminishing returns for playing more, for playing 4 of it. Speaking of diminishing returns, I'm gonna set those right over here. We also play 3 copies of Concern for a Friend. Now, Concern for a Friend, it lets us basically commit to draw a card, which is great. And we even have a way to reuse that later, which we'll talk about when we talk about how you can like get some mileage out of the character. But, we only need so much card draw. It's also a 3-diff, and the Rider ability where we can use momentum for damage is less useful the more copies of this card we have. So I think you can also comfortably only play 3 copies of this card as well. And finally, I think you should only play 3 copies of Quick Response. Response has a great deadlock on it, but you don't really need, like a lot of this card, the cost does add up. Not all of our attacks are highs. A lot of your games that won't even go into deadlock. So it's a useful card. It helps us with our low blocks because we're a little light on those in this deck, but you shouldn't play 4 of this card. And then just to briefly go over it, to our rest of our foundations, we're playing a playset of Reaching Out, a playset of Quirk Expertise, we're playing a playset of Flustered, a playset of Weightless, a playset, miscounted there, but a playset of Flustered, playset of Resourceful, and a playset of Worm and Bubbly. This adds up to 24, and then our 3 trios for 9 makes a grand total of 33, and 33 foundations and 17 attacks gives us our nice, clean 50 card Ochaco 4 deck right out of the box. Okay, now that we've covered how to actually build our first Ochaco 4 deck, we're going to spend some time and talk about the character herself. Because it's one thing to learn the rules for a card game, but it's another thing to understand the strategy that goes with it. So today, or right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what Ochaco 4 wants to be doing, and this should help kind of guide you in your early gameplay decisions. Despite her appearances, Ochaco 4 is actually a very aggressive character who leverages her stage as basically just free resources in an attempt to kill her opponent before she runs out of gas. In theory, you can flip a foundation on every attack that you play and just start giving speed or damage, your choice, to every move that you play. But if you do that, before you know it, your stage is going to be nothing but face downs. And that's bad. So you have to pace yourself when playing with this character. The way you do that is A, you don't flip on every attack, just the reality of it. And B, she gets to flip up a foundation on her second attack that she plays, which means that, and we'll talk about how you do this a little bit, but you can actually like recycle the abilities on some foundations and get multiple uses out of them for value. Ochaco also has the added benefit that as long as she keeps hitting her opponent, you get to start readying your face down foundations, which makes it easier for you to then play more attacks and keep hitting your opponent. So she's a character that wants to play a lot of attacks. This does have costs though, because it makes it harder for you to build foundations afterwards. And as you stop building foundations, you're going to run out of foundations to flip. So she's actually like a really well-designed character. Learning to pace yourself and handle this minigame is going to be like a skill you'll cultivate as you play and practice. Now, as a rule of thumb, Ochaco can pump either speed or damage. And if you're in a situation where you know you want to flip to give an attack stats, but you don't know what to give it, I would default to speed. Because if you pump the speed of an attack, either A, your opponent's going to choose to not block it and you'll get in for damage, which is good, or B, if they do block it, they're going to have to commit extra resources or use abilities to get that speed to a more manageable value, which again comes out ahead for us as we start playing more and more attacks. Our opponent's going to lose the ability to defend themselves. And once they can't block, then we start flipping for damage. It's a nice like turnaround. So yeah, if you know you want to give your attack stats but you don't know what to flip, I would always recommend speed to start. Now, I mentioned earlier that Ochaco 4 can actually recycle foundations. I'm going to walk through how that works and what I mean. Now, there's a few foundations in her deck you can do this with, but for this example, we're going to use Reaching Out, which I have to dig up. It's hiding from me. Here we go, at the bottom. So, Reaching Out says commit, give your high attack +1 speed, +1 damage, and your next charge gets -1 difficulty. We can commit Reaching Out to give some attack. Let's grab a 0 gravity rush. Let's say, we've played a 0 gravity rush, right? We commit to give it some stats. We flip with our character, and then our opponent can't block the gravity rush. They take the damage. We get to ready, using Ochaco's response, we get to ready this face down Reaching Out. When we play a second attack, let's just grab Swift Redirect. We get to respond with our character, and we get to flip this Reaching Out up. And now it's ready to be used again. So again, we can commit and give the Swift Redirect stats, and then we can flip it with our character and give it even more stats. and then when it deals, we get to ready it again. If you have her ultra rare foundation, snap out of it. When you play a third attack, I'm gonna find one. When you play like a third attack, there's our floating drop. You can even recycle this a third time. You know, you play the floating drop, you commit snap out of it to flip this up. And now you can commit it a third time, get this effect a third time, flip it for stats. If the attack deals, you get to ready it again. So you can use the same foundation 2, maybe even 3 times with this character. Now out of the box, I think Reaching Out or Quirk Expertise, these are the 2 best cards out of the box you can use with that combination. But man, as you like start deck building, there's all kinds of crazy like interactions you can do with this character on these symbols. But yeah, that's kind of how that loop works, and it's a staple to really like maximizing the strength of this character. So you should remember how to do that. Feel free to watch this segment again if you need to. Now, one last small tip before we go. I would suggest you pick up some sleeves to protect your new deck. I personally recommend Dragon Shields. They come in a variety of colors. They're a little pricey. They range from around $14 to $15, depends on your store, and the exact style of sleeve that you buy. But they're very durable. One set of sleeves will last you a long time, and the boxes are actually designed to have decks put in them, so they also double as a temporary deck box until you buy your own. So they're great if you're like a new player. You can use them, sleeve up the deck, and then put the deck actually in your sleeve box, and now you could put like, write Ochaco 4 on top, and this is everything you need until you buy your own accessories. So I would strongly recommend some sleeves when you're starting out. I know a $14, $15 set of sleeves for a deck you maybe only paid $15 for seems like a lot, but as you upgrade your deck and spend more money on cards, you're really going to benefit from protecting those cards long term. So you can buy other sleeves like Katanas or KCIs. Your local game store might have their own recommendations, but personally, I'm a big fan of Dragon Shields. With all that out of the way, that's going to complete my tutorial for Ochaco 4. If you're a new player and you found this useful, consider liking and subscribing. I'm going to be covering a lot of decks and some other news and strategy for Jetburn moving forward, and there's going to be a lot more really awesome Jetburn content coming. For today, though, that's going to wrap us up. So, once again, thank you for entering the chamber, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.